And at 10, Roblox. I looked up Glamrock versions of characters and somehow I kept getting loads of different Roblox versions of the FNAF animatronics. And this is goddamn terrifying for me. Why do you ask? Well, because it's Roblox. I don't like Roblox. The only good Roblox game is paintball and that's it, okay? Anytime we talk about Roblox, I feel an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me because ever since that list about like the worst things that people did on Roblox or something along those lines, I've seen the Roblox community as horrifically toxic and just something I can't really stand. Especially with the comments on like that one time I played Roblox on the channel and everyone got mad at me for just playing paintball, but like that environment combined with FNAF, which is already the bane of my existence at this point, and you get some pretty horrifying experiences that I don't want to deal with. And at 9, GLAMROCK FOXY. Speaking of not wanting to deal with additional lore, GLAMROCK FOXY would also add a lot of unnecessary amount of annoyance to the game. At this point, Roxy is basically the love child of Foxy and Bonnie, and even has a name that kind of reflects on the whole like meant to be Foxy thing, since Roxy is just a combination of Rock and Foxy. Like it's also an actual name, but I figured I'd mention that it's basically a combination of the two words. And she plays guitar, and so there's a link to Bonnie. However, the main issue with this comes from the fact that Foxy is just, it's scarier than Bonnie. I know all you die-hard Bonnie stans are gonna come for me, and I get that Scott had nightmares about him, but honestly, there's just no contest between these two characters. Foxy is scarier than Bonnie, and that means that his Glamrock would end up being scarier as well, especially if you take the toy animatronics as an example. The Glamrocks are very close design-wise to the toys, so keeping that in mind, the toy variant of Foxy is still scarier than Bonnie's. Case closed. And at 8, Glamrock Bonnie. I think the freakiest part about Glamrock Bonnie is just the fact that they're not going to be in the game. So far as I know at least, the only mention of Bonnie will be a bowling alley that we probably aren't gonna get to use, but for the most part, like with the rest of these animatronics, the designs aren't scary. Well, aside from the Minecraft model. Like what's with people and making Minecraft animations for FNAF characters? And like FNAF, I don't understand it. I'd also like it to be noted that instead of animations, I spelled animatronics when I was writing that list initially, and I also did it again while writing this line. That's how much FNAF has taken over my life. I can't write animation anymore. So I hope you people are happy. But either way, these versions, aside from one version from a Twitter user called ManutArt, aren't really all that menacing. But the idea that people are creating additional animatronics is scary enough for me. Because I don't want to deal with the additional lore that would come from that, okay? And at 7, FNAF 2020. These Glamrock animatronics are from the FNAF 2020 series of drawings from DeviantArt user Senior Artsy, who I believe we've seen on this channel before in some other fan versions videos. However, I don't want to call out one animatronic specifically, but rather the whole collection of Glamrock versions from this 2020 set, because while yes, these animatronics will mostly be in the game, with the exception of some like Bonnie, these color palettes and designs are much more sinister than their previous versions, especially Vanny and Freddy, since giving Freddy a panda face, I don't know why, but just for some reason makes me kinda scared of him, and I think it's because the rest of his body isn't a panda, and it's just his face, so it's like he's wearing a mask and gonna rob you or something. I don't know the psychology behind it, but I think we can all agree, especially that Vanny looks like she should not be playing in a kid's game. And at 6, Withered Glamrock Freddy. I've said it before, Withered animatronics are probably some of the weirdest and creepiest animatronics there are. I personally find Withered Bonnie way creepier than Nightmare Bonnie, probably because of the whole lack of a face thing. But with the new Glamrock animatronics on their way in a month, it was only a matter of time before someone withered them. Searching Withered Chica only really gets you pictures of like Chica from the Broken teasers and the trailer, so instead I'm going with Withered Glamrock Freddy because these are creepy as hell. Every version of Withered Glamrock Freddy makes me concerned that we're climbing into his belly to pilot him like some really energy inefficient mech suit. Like thinking about it, that's a really bad idea. This guy not only looks scary, but also made me realize the error of Gregory's ways, which makes him even worse. When we ultimately do get crushed at the end of this game, I'm calling it now so that when it does happen I can say I called it. This is how I imagine Glamrock Freddy looking. Or if this is post FNAF 3 and the company has been ruined, maybe this is what the animatronics look like, except they're using those sound illusion discs to make us think otherwise. Halfway through in at number 5, Glamrock Puppet. Again, every time I make a list about discussing creepy animatronics, a freaking puppet always makes it on. That's mostly because the puppet is a freaky character to begin with, and I feel like the phone guy whenever I call the puppet creepy, but it is creepy. And the Glamrock Puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Furries Rage game like I figured it would be, but instead it's just like a separate design that no matter what just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint to show me how the pepperoni gets put on the pizza. And no, I don't mean literally. Yes, that was an allusion to something else. And not only does it come with its own creepy ass concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account Scrap Puppet, Withered Puppet, or Reaper Puppet from Final Nights 3. This is like the 4th weirdest and scariest puppet, and there's nothing really scary about it. It feels wrong to me, and the whole pepperoni thing. And at 4, GLAMROCK plush. Okay, so technically these are official and licensed plushies, so they're not really fan-made, but there are other versions on Etsy that are actually fan-made, so there are some fan-made versions. And honestly, those are the ones that you should be getting, because look at these fucking things. Why are the GLAMROCK Security Breach plushies so funky looking? They look horrible. Like, this was actually so much of an issue that many people had with these plushies that it caused a bit of an uproar within the community when they were first revealed. Not only that, but because, you know, Funko has a history of just leaking everything for some reason, and they don't look like the other plushies that they've released before. Like, if you're gonna make real plushies, at least make them look the same as they did in the VR game, so that we can like actually really see them and hold them, because we've already seen them before. It's not that hard, guys, really. These Security Breach GLAMROCK plushes are some of the worst proportioned and most horrifying plushies I've seen. And I saw the one that Scott Lang gave to his daughter in Ant-Man, and the bloodthirsty minion my father gave to my sister. These are still the most horrific ones that I've seen, though, okay? If I had these, I would be scared for my life. Although, mentioning that, they are on my Amazon wish list, so if you guys want to... I'm just kidding, I don't have an Amazon wish list, I'm not a girl. Getting close to the end, into number 3, Blacklight GLAMROCKS. Some of the Blacklight versions of GLAMROCK animatronics are absolutely horrifying. While I'm not sure if the plushie versions are official products, the fan blender versions for the characters are freaking nuts. Chica with blue skin is not only off-putting, but actually haunting. Same with a yellow Roxy. These are like if the GLAMROCK animatronics were Pokemon, and then like these were the shiny versions of them. So far, the only Blacklight animatronics that we know of are the ones from Help Wanted that only really appeared in the animatronic maintenance minigames in Blacklight mode, but that were never used again and that we don't really get to see. It's terrifying to think about the lore implications as well. Like if this place turns off the light at night, but then turns on like a black light or something, like how do they change color? How are they not just neon whatever their color is? Because these peeps are colorful as hell. So why not just glow your own damn colors? See, my head is starting to hurt even just thinking about these things. Just please, keep them away from me. And ultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare GLAMROCKS. Nightmare animatronics are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronics, and that's why there are so many fan-made versions, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, you can really just head anywhere, same with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their original pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, there is a stark contrast between the two versions. They seem to be just the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on with these characters specifically. I don't know why these animatronics specifically make me think that way, because maybe it's because like Glamrock Chica is my babe, but now she's not, but like even still. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, but their Nightmare Glamrock version is scarier than their normal Nightmare version. Stay away from these, don't look them up, although you've already seen them because it's in the edit. So I'm sorry. And finally, in at number 1, scrap GLAMROCK animatronics. With Security Breach releasing in less than a month, we had to include a group of animatronics as scrapped versions on this list. And honestly, it's actually a good idea, considering how Chica in that promotional image seems pretty scrapped already. They really wouldn't have to do much to make that work out. However, the versions that I've actually seen are scarily horrific in a way that makes me concerned if they'll be in the real game. I don't think these would be in the game, but based on my old theory that I had about how these characters are kind of acting like zombies and like eating animatronic, or I guess not animatronic, but like other robotic parts, this look just makes me feel too right. Especially when we see in the trailer Chica getting progressively more destroyed. I feel like this might actually end up being a thing. These animatronics being made into scrap animatronics are honestly some of the freakiest custom scrap versions that I've seen. This is some freaky scrap. I tried to stay away from anything like that was like too pristine, I guess. Cause like what I used to do in previous alternate fan version videos was just look up adjectives. Like if it was like scary nightmare and like fan versions, I would just look up like withered nightmare, something else nightmare. I would just add that. I would just add adjectives to Nightmare's name. So I tried to avoid that this time, but scrap and nightmare are always a classic way to go, okay? If there's gonna be a Halloween update for this game though, Scott, or I guess Steel Wool at this point, you need to add these. That would be fun.
Number 10. Shadow Sprite. Shadow Sprite appears to be a completely original animatronic design. Sprite is described as a mammal and a carnivoran. Carnivoran meaning likely that Sprite is an eater of meat or flesh, so a carnivore. Carnivoran's kind of just another word for carnivore, I believe. So you definitely would want to watch out with this animatronic, as it won't just store you somewhere, it'll likely ingest you and potentially ingest your soul as well, who knows. Maybe this is the only animatronic who doesn't really gain remnant from killing people and can't really extract that, storing the soul, but instead completely devours its prey. Sprite appears to have 2 large arms that are wing-like save for the fingers on the ends of them. It has feet like a dog and giant ears that are almost bunny or dog-like in appearance. Kinda reminds me of those like floppy bunny ears. Number 9. Shadow Withered Chica. All of the withered animatronics are just horrific. So what happens when you combine them with the shadow animatronics? You get gloriously terrifying creations like Shadowed Withered Chica. Withered Chica is already really creepy due to the fact that she is missing both of her hands and really only has wire left in place of them. Her bright yellow coloring usually helps to offset this creepy detail when it comes to her appearance, but the shadow version of her gets no such counterbalance, unfortunately, or fortunately depending on your opinion. Her dislocated jaw is also highlighted even more here by the fact that she's in shadow, with her bib becoming a disturbing beacon in the darkness. The only thing you can like see looming when she comes towards you, you're like, ah, her bib! Never thought I'd be so scared of a bib. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want even more FNAF lists, you know we want to give them to you, so be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Crazed Shadow Puppet. So there are actually a whole series of these shadow animatronics and I love them. I love these little like crazed animatronics, their expressions are great. For some reason they really remind me of Bendy and the Ink Machine. Maybe it's that wash of insanity, or maybe it's all the dripping inky-like look of their faces. But yes, it's definitely giving me Bendy vibes. Crazed Shadow Puppet is probably my favorite of them all, as we can also see that not only is there something very disturbed about this grinning, wide-eyed expression, but you can also see upon close inspection that the puppet faceplate here is cracked as well, which also feels somewhat symbolic to me. Having a face with a crack in it while also seemingly losing your mind? I mean, it's like your mind has a crack in it, you know what I mean? Number 7. Shadow Mangle. As much as I thought Shadow Mangle would be terrifying, and well, it is, I'm actually not finding this to be one of the most scary on our list, but it's still pretty scary. Shadow Mangle, even in one iteration, is pictured as being fully whole, although even then we kinda get some like Cthulhu-like vibes from this animatronic. The version of Mangle is pictured as being fully together with a big bushy tail and furry fox face and ears. Its teeth and eyes glow a bright white and it sports a little bow tie, but while that all sounds not too bad in terms of scare factor, behind it in shadow loom a series of tentacles, if you will, obviously meant to be the pieces and bits that couldn't quite fit back together. Anything that is like tentacles looming behind it, I'm like, no, not gonna do that. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Number 6. Shadow Chica. Oddly enough, Chica is one of the few main cast at Freddy's who doesn't really seem to have too much of her own shadow version. We don't really know why this is, but just because Chica has a lot of weird love coming her way doesn't mean that she doesn't deserve to also have a super scary and mysterious alternate shadow version. Fans of course have looked to rectify this by giving her one. Granted, you have to be careful where you share said fan-made animatronics online in terms of communities, as some have attempted to do so in canon-based wikis where it's considered a major no-no. So yeah, but they're still out there. I like that they also still exist on those wikis. They've just been like, you can't do this here, but we're not gonna like delete it, we're just gonna like move it around. Shadow Chica is typically depicted as being less rounded than our FNAF 1 counterpart and a little bit more curvy instead. Why is Chica always drawn curvy, even with FNAF 1? I don't know. Her eyes, teeth, and the eyes of her cupcake stand out, glowing a bright white. So many curvy Chicas. I can't, even when it's not Toy Chica, people are like, let's give her a waist. I'm like, she's like a chicken. I feel like, I don't know. You can be either way, really. I'm not trying to body shame Chica here, just FYI, just to be clear. I just think it's interesting the way that people choose to draw her. Number 5. Shadow Springtrap. Not sure if it makes sense to have a Shadow Springtrap, considering that Springtrap when he first shows up is still alive, or alive in the sense of being a shambling corpse that can still move and think, I presume, but he was trapped within a Spring Bonnie suit. I guess as alive as Springtrap gets. The shadow animatronics are typically all kinda ghost-like or glitch-like in terms of their appearance and what they stand for. I mean, they're kind of mysterious actually. We don't really know a lot about shadow animatronics. I think we had a whole video about shadow animatronics and like, what are they really? In my opinion, they're kind of like mirrorverse versions of almost all the animatronics we know, love, and fear, like their other half. It feels weird to have this for some reason for an animatronic who is also a person, but just because it's somewhat unconventional, it doesn't mean that fans can't imagine what a shadow Springtrap would look like. And the answer is, of course, terrifying, because Springtrap's already terrifying, so you shadow it, still scary. Number 4. Shadow Toy Foxy. Shadow Toy Foxy is a very different looking shadow type animatronic. Instead of being quite as dark with pinprick white eyes like other shadow animatronics, this version is a bold purple that is somewhat see-through, revealing their endoskeleton through their somewhat translucent purple outer exosuit. Kinda reminds me of those old Macs people had in the early 2000s where they had like colorful plastic on the back that you could see all the inner workings and the motherboard through. I might be aging myself here, but that is a thing. I remember those Macs. I don't think I ever owned one though, sadly. Of course, this could also just be an artistic rendition of what would be a much more shadowy animatronic should it appear in game, because, you know, this is a drawing. Shadow Toy Foxy not only looks scary, but also manages to look refined as well, keeping their bow tie, lipstick, and bright cheeks. Number 3. Nightmare Shadow Bonnie. Nightmare animatronics are already terrifying enough. We don't need to give them anything else to make them even more scary, do we? But that is just what this fan-made version does, so I guess maybe we do. Nightmare Shadow Bonnie is a version of the Nightmare Bonnie animatronic, one that happens to be more shrouded in darkness due to its shadow-like inky black coloring. However, even in shadow, this animatronic still gives us some detail so we can see how tattered it is. For some reason, I also find its expression, face shape, and its teeth to be even more horrifying than the standard Nightmare Bonnie animatronic version. So maybe we do need Shadow Nightmare animatronics, like a whole series of them. They'd be really scary. Number 2. Shadow Toy Chica. Shadow Toy Chica is maybe the most horrifying of all of the fan-made shadow animatronics, because of how hot everyone is still obsessed with making her. Once again, this is Toy Chica, so Shadow Toy Chica is not removed from that. We're still making her like a weirdly sexy animatronic. Well, yeah, like I said, she is a version of Toy Chica. Shadow Toy Chica is typically depicted as having a big, jagged grin and an X on her chest, both of which, along with her pupils, glow a bright white. Sometimes she can also be seen carrying her cupcake, which glows a bright white or neon blue. Shadow Toy Chica also has her own Twitter profile that someone made for her under the username Shadow Thought Chica. I think that says it all when it comes to just how scary this fan-made shadow animatronic is. Number 1. Nightmare Shadow Mangle. I thought that Shadow Toy Chica would be the most scary in principle, and then Nightmare Shadow Mangle came along. Mangle is already a horrifying animatronic, so this really just adds a layer to that. Nightmare Shadow Mangle is a lot more intimidating, considering that it's really hard to see. Mainly what we can see of this animatronic is its bright white glowing teeth and its eyes, and the eyes that belong to its endo puppet parrot. Yikes! This version of Mangle would be hard to spot if you face it in person, and when you likely did end up noticing it, it would probably be way too late. It would be like, I got you, and you'd be like, dead.
In a 10, scrap Bonnie. Ah, Bonnie, the scariest animatronic to some, even Scott Cawthon, who would have nightmares about you. But this is probably why he didn't make you a scrap animatronic, yet here we are with the fan base once again showcasing that their only desire is to watch the world burn and laugh while we all go up in flames, but then miraculously not die somehow, only for it to be explained years later in a random book that a load of hardcore game purists claim isn't canon. However, Scrap Bonnie is definitely worthy of making this list because, like, look at it. I love rabbits, they're freaking adorable, but zombie rabbits always creeped me out for some reason, and this reminds me of a zombie rabbit. The exposed endoskeleton, the random weird claw-like thing they got going on. It's like if Scrap Baby was reassembling herself and then Elizabeth was like, no, I want to possess Bonnie! And then she remade herself as Bonnie. Honestly, I'm surprised Scott didn't pull something like that at this point. With like this just the simple explanation of Elizabeth liked Bonnie, and then that's it, that's the only thing we get. Damn, maybe that's the scariest thing of all. And at 9, scrap Nightmare Bonnie. What's that? 2 Bonnie animatronics in a row on a list not about Bonnie? Yes! But mostly because I was scrolling through Google Images and these two caught my eye first. Scrap Nightmare Bonnie is scary for all the reasons I listed above, and then you just add Nightmare to it. Although I guess that doesn't really make for a compelling number, and I should talk about it more. The concept of the Nightmare animatronics is certainly freaky, but the fact that they aren't real kind of like soothes me, you know? Like, sure, none of these animatronics are real, but even in their universe, the Nightmare animatronics aren't real and can't really hurt you. But with the implication of the scrapped nature of this version, it seems to suggest against that idea, and I think that makes it freakier. But also the potential that the arm at the end of that one Security Breach trailer that was never referenced again, by the way, Steel Wool, looks like Nightmare Freddy's arm, and it only adds to the idea that they're not going to be fake for very long. Like, they're going to be real animatronics very soon, and I don't like that. If that ends up being the thing, if they make the Nightmare animatronics actual animatronics in Security Breach, this channel is done with FNAF. Straight up. And it ain't Scrap Baby Endo. Scrap Baby is already the freakiest of all the Scrap animatronics, or at least the canon Scrap animatronics, but never did I think about what her endoskeleton would look like, because let's be honest, that's kind of freaky. I mean, her name is literally Baby. I don't want to talk about her endoskeleton, that'll put me on like some kind of watch list. However, this goddamn Scrap Baby Endo concept is horrifying. Why does it have boobs? It's an endoskeleton! You don't actually have to give it boobs! Why did Baby even reassemble herself? In that way is my question. Is it because she like needs to be able to pass as a human like she does in the 4th Closet novel? Like, seriously, this has been something that has always bugged me, because like, why? Why did Scrap Baby reassemble themselves with a chest? And then like, why are people including this as a part of her endoskeleton? This hurts me on like a deep level. I don't want to think about it anymore. Let's move on. And at 7, Scrap Glitch Trap. You can fight me all you want about my opinions on Springtrap and the fact that he's not an animatronic because he's just a dude in the suit. But there's no way you can fight me on the fact that Glitch Trap isn't an animatronic. Firstly, he's just game code with no real world equivalent aside from William Afton. Secondly, he's literally just a suit. You can tell by the fabric. The different design to the Bonnie we know and the stitching around his joints, and you know, it's a suit. But this version of Glitch Trap, known as Scrap Glitch Trap, is designed to be an animatronic, therefore it counts for this list. This thing is fucking horrifying. I've always had a soft spot for Glitch Trap, okay? I hate this thing because, like, you know, it gives me creepy bear vibes, if you know what I mean. You know, if you look at old memes, you'll know. It's an old meme, but it checks out. It's a specific bear that may have candy in his white windowless van. Anyway, I hate this kind of thing. And the way that Glitch Trap just like stands there and waves and then slowly gets closer to you, who's playing a child in the game, doesn't sit right with me. Hence why I avoid picking up tapes, because I don't like him. Now, with all that said, this version is still worse. The actual Scrap appearance, along with like the desaturation of the costume and the exposed endoskeleton and all the wires, it's too much for me. I can't do it. I'm done. And at 6, Scrap Puppet. I don't know why, but like every version of the puppet intended to be scary gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like the Reaper puppet, which I talk about in multiple FNAF videos, and is honestly the epitome of horrifying for me, is the Reaper puppet. And then there's like the Havoc puppet of the Dramidibus series, and now we have Scrap Puppet. This was only a concept and fan art, but it doesn't actually appear in any of the games, but it's still creepy, okay? It doesn't have to appear in a game. This is fan animatronics for a reason. Doesn't appear in game, and I don't think that there's a mod for it either if you watch that video. Although that is a good idea. You should make a mod for this. There should just be a FNAF game that's all puppets. Anyway, while some people may not be able to make a game for their creations, you can make a mod, or you can like make a model for it in Source Filmmaker, and then let people use it for mods. Anyways, this particular image that I found just looks like the beginning of a Scrap Puppet jump scare, as if you were salvaging them in FNAF 6. And obviously it's not actually in the game because the puppet was captured by Lefty, but still, this just, it puts me on edge. And then it has like all like the little tentacle things coming off of it and like a creepy smile. Like I don't know, it puts me on edge, or it's edging me. because of those tentacles. Is that too far? I mean, Food Wars said it, so like, can I make the joke? Halfway through into number 5, scrap FUNTIME Freddy. FUNTIME Freddy is a particularly interesting animatronic, looking like he just came back from filming a video with James Charles. Does he even make videos anymore? I don't know, nor do I really care. FUNTIME Freddy is creepy simply because he's like the most put together version of Freddy there is, ignoring Toy Freddy. Especially with the recent revelation, thanks to the Faz Facts from FNAF AR, that revealed that the FUNTIME animatronics, despite being introduced in the 5th game, were among some of the first animatronics that Afton built, which I think was meant to serve as a way to show that he always had murderous intentions, but still. Take the creep factor you get from FUNTIME Freddy, then add on to it the scrap adjective, and boom, you got yourself some good nightmare fuel. But like, not like this would be in your nightmares, like rather I think it would just provoke some nightmares, but is certainly not for the faint of heart. And at 4, Nightmare Scrap Baby. Really? You just had to take probably the freakiest bitch of the bunch and turn her into a nightmare scrap version. What the living hell, man. Okay, I'll admit that this should be higher on the list, so actually, you know what, I'll move it. Okay, there we go, it's at number 4 now. Like, it was originally at number 8, but then I switched it with Scrap Baby's Endo specifically so that I could say that I already said that Scrap Baby is the scariest of the scrap animatronics. Yes, this was a bit. And turning them into a nightmare version that wants to eat my soul is too much, okay? Amanda and I are the only ones who are supposed to do the whole soul eating thing. But Nightmare Scrap Baby looks like she wants to eat my firstborn child. Like, do you understand how absolutely terrifying this thing is? Some of them even look like Pennywise after they're old and gray and been doing too much no snow. Pennywise would be scared of Nightmare Scrap Baby. Afton would disown Elizabeth as his daughter for this. This is literally the stuff of nightmares, which I guess was the point. So, good job, guys. You got me to freak. Congratulations. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Scrap Orville. I found this Scrap Orville through a mod that replaced Orville, I'm assuming, with the Scrap Orville version. Orville Elephant isn't a particularly scary character, and that remains the same for the rest of the mediocre melodies. However, this Scrap Orville mod, made using a model by DeviantArt user Holupaxum, based on a design of Reddit user u/fandomtrash198787, is honestly terrifying. Scrapping animatronics always makes them scarier, and with the lore implications that the original Orville gave with his death lines and Ultimate Custom Night, I can only imagine what a Scrap Orville will add, and I've stated it time and time again, the lore is the scariest thing in the series to me. And the sheer lore implications of not only a Scrap Orville, but all these fan-made scrap animatronics is actually haunting how terrifying it is. If you've ever tried to explain anything in this series in at least somewhat of a reasonable way and not a whole Sans' phone guy kind of way, you'll understand my struggle and you'll relate to me on this. But ultimately, in at number 2, Scrap Trap Endo. Scrap Trap is already a creepy animatronic, somehow changing from a small, realistically sized head in SPRINGTRAP to a giant, weird alien head in FNAF 6. Scrap Trap is definitely one of the most interesting Afton looks. It looks like he's going to Coachella and trying on a load of outfits. However, this man needs to keep as much clothing on as possible because this version of Scrap Trap's endoskeleton, or what it would look like, is absolutely horrific. And yes, that's what I meant by clothes, not because Afton is a walking mass of exposed muscle and absolutely unsightly in the most horrendous ways. No, it's because his endoskeleton for the Scrap Trap animatronic is freaky. Like, why does his head have to be that shape? It's an animatronic, not a freaking pop figure. Scrap Trap needs a pop figure, though. I will definitely buy that. So, Funko, do it. Still, either way, Scrap Trap endoskeleton is literally one of my worst nightmares. And finally, in at number 1, Scrap GLAMROCKS. With Security Breach on the horizon, releasing in actually a month as this video is going out, I believe, we still had to include the group of animatronics as scrap versions on this list. And honestly, it's pretty accurate considering how CHICA in that promotional image and the recent trailer seems to be pretty scrapped already. They wouldn't really have to do much there to have that really work out. However, the versions that I've actually seen are scarily horrific in a way that makes me concerned if they'll be in the real real game. I don't think these would be in the game, but based on that old theory that I had about how these characters are acting like zombies, this makes me feel like that theory is a little too right. These animatronics being made into scrap animatronics are honestly some of the weirdest custom scrap versions I've seen, and that makes them the scariest. I tried to stay away from anything newer, or I guess that I had covered in previous alternate fan version videos, but holy crap, these scrap rocks, as I want to call them, are absolutely haunting. This is what the Halloween update for this game should be. These are actually perfect, so thank you. And it's Spider BALLORA. Anyone who knows me knows I hate spiders. Big, small, poisonous, venomous, non-aggressive, any form of spider deserves to die, and if it's near me, hopefully it will. And while the Havoc puppet is messed up, if you know me, if you've watched any other fan videos, you'll know the Havoc puppet. The spider version of BALLORA is literally called Spider BALLORA, and I hate it with all my guts. While a couple of Nightmare BALLORAs have spider legs, this takes it to the next level. Her original form of crawling like a spider was already bad enough in my eyes, but now I have to deal with literally 3 eyes, 8 legs, a thorax, and 6 arms. What the hell? Man, why on God's green earth would you create this unholy monstrosity of a creature? Like, this is the kind of thing even Satan wouldn't approve of. When you die and you have to walk down the stairs to hell, Satan's gonna hide behind the gate and tell you to just keep walking. This is true horror, and I don't care what you think. You don't think it's scary? Good for you, but I'm not sleeping tonight. And with the introduction of the Music Man spider animatronic thing, whatever that unholy creation is, more spider animatronics, unfortunately, are now par for the course. And I don't want to deal with it. And at 9, GLAMROCK FOXY. Speaking of not wanting to deal with additional lore, GLAMROCK FOXY would add a really unnecessary amount of just sheer annoyance to the game. At this point, Roxy is basically the love child of Foxy and Bonnie, and I say this every time. He even has a name that reflects the whole Foxy thing, okay? Since Roxy is just a combination of Rock and Foxy. I mean, like, I'm sure that's not intentional. Like, Roxy is an actual name that people have, but I figured that I'd mention it anyway because it's still like a combination of both words. And she plays the guitar, so there's a link to Bonnie. However, the main issue with this is just the fact that, like, Foxy is like a scarier Bonnie. I know all the die-hard Bonnie stans are gonna come for my balls or something in the comments, but like, hey, look, I get that Scott had nightmares about him, okay? But honestly, there's just no contest between these two characters. Bonnie isn't actually scary. Yet the GLAMROCK versions that I see for Foxy fit in well. And considering the Pyrite Easter egg that seemingly introduces another Foxy, I talk about that in the top 10 tiny details you missed in the FNAF Security Breach trailers video, we might very well get a special version of this OG animatronic. Or we might already have one running around and we just haven't seen him in the trailer. And it is Shadow Fredbear. Shadow Fredbear is almost perfectly intact, only burnt black in color. And he has a few rips on his body and is missing his left hand. The area around his mouth appears torn slightly as well, revealing a majority of his endoskeleton teeth. And his teeth and eyes glow, which makes it easier to see. Wonderful. Imagine if this animatronic had gums though. If he did, that would probably be the scariest thing on this list. But like, the absolute monstrosity that would have been created just by giving this character f***ing gums is, I don't want to talk about it. My genius is sometimes terrifying. But nonetheless, this is still creepy without gums, okay? Especially because this dude is like, he looks like the FNAF VR jump scare that's just like the glowing eyes or nose and mouth that are like glowing red. It's like that, okay? It's weird. This dude is powerful, and he replaces most of the other animatronics on Night 5 of Final Nights 2. However, with the connections that Gregory and the Crying Child seem to share, perhaps Shadow Fredbear would be a way to enhance that connection further. Or it could be a hallucination or manifestation created by GLitchTrap in an effort to scare us into submission so he can be sacrificed or whatever the hell he wants from us. And it's 7, Fixed Springtrap or Scrap Trap. Fixed Scrap Trap doesn't sound scary at first, and then you see what some fans have done with this design, and then you crap your pants. The eyes for many of these versions is what makes it unsettling. The fact that everything on this animatronic looks put together and almost brand new, save for the fact that you can still kind of tell that there's someone in the suit, is off-putting. And someone who might not even really be doing well and is likely dead Yeah. The contrast of the clean suit with the manic eyes of it, there's something very unhinged about this version. I'm getting the vibes for that, really. And including this in the game could serve as William's new body, because I'm pretty sure he will unfortunately be coming back despite my constant pleas to kill him off permanently, because for some reason everyone thinks we'll be able to redeem Vanny, which means that we'll need a villain, but I don't think so. I don't think there's any saving this And at 6, Twisted FUNTIME Freddy. While there are a plethora of twisted animatronics, both from the mind of Scott Cawthon and others, none are quite as terrifying as Twisted FUNTIME Freddy. Twisted FUNTIME Freddy combines the nightmare design of previous animatronics with basically everything else that you would find terrifying in an animatronic. Like, I don't know why the teeth have to be angled slightly outward, and like, I don't know what it is about this animatronic that makes it so much more terrifying than everything else, but it worked. It doesn't matter. Even if it's not pointed outward, I think the mixture of the visuals plus the thought of them also being able to move their face plates from being underground and still twisted but moving, it just, everything culminates in my brain and just causes panic. Like, it's like a sensory overload, but with FNAF, and honestly that's what FNAF does to me nowadays. These are freaking nuts, and I don't know what it is about it. It's in essence a nightmare animatronic, but seems so much worse. Plus, it's a way to work in the different twisted animatronics into the game lore, including the canon ones and additional fan ones maybe. Halfway through, in at number 5, FNAF AR. FNAF AR Special Delivery is certainly an interesting game, but the animatronics present in that game are even more interesting. With skins like Clown Springtrap and Arctic Ballora, it's always cool to see new takes on our favorite animatronics. Get it? Because she's Arctic. However, the cooler thing would be to see these animatronics in Security Breach. I mean, we've already seen some of them in the Furry's Rage video game, which saw us fighting waves of enemies throughout the Pizzaplex, so why not just put them in the main game? Especially some of the fan-made versions from that game, because those are way cooler than anything in the actual game itself, okay? It could help explain why the animatronics that should be dealt with are back, especially since it's an argument as to why any of these animatronics should actually be added, because it would mess with the lore of what we already know. See yesterday's list for me using that reason multiple times to explain why even some of these animatronics on this list shouldn't be added to the game. But hey, I'm all about contradicting myself, okay? It gets people talking in the comments. Speaking of which, who do you want to see in Security Breach? Who isn't like actually like confirmed? Like, don't say, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing No, don't do that. Who do you want to see in Security Breach who isn't confirmed yet? Let me know that you actually made it this far into the video by answering that question in the comments. In at 4, Nights At Freddy. This game could also serve as a link between game worlds if that's the plan. A breach in the security of the dimensional barrier, if you will. Scott would stretch a title like that, let's be honest. And Ignited Freddy is one of the main antagonists of the Joy of Creation fan game, which will have a new Ignited collection released as part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. In this game, you play as Scott Cawthon, whose creations have escaped from the game and are coming after you. Ignited Freddy appears to be a burnt and charred Freddy Fazbear animatronic. He has no bottom jaw, he's exposed his endoskeleton's bottom set of rusty teeth, his left ear is also missing. Ignited Freddy, he wears a top hat though. We love a classy gentleman, like his original counterpart. Both of his hands are also missing, along with the suit on his shins and his left forearm. He has no real eyes, only black holes with white pupils, but adding this to the game could serve as a way to connect the fanverse to the main universe and get fans excited for the Fanverse Initiative games in an interesting way. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Nightmare GLAMROCKS. Nightmare versions are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronic, and you know what? I get it. That's why there are so many fan-made versions of them, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, you can only do so much with those. You can head anywhere else from your own imagination, same with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, there is a stark contrast between these two versions. The normal GLAMROCKS and the Nightmare GLAMROCKS, jeez. There just seems to be the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on with these characters specifically, even more so than like Twisted FUNTIME Freddy. I don't know why these animatronics specifically make me think that way, but maybe it's because like Glamrock Chica is my babe, but like now, even still. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, but their Nightmare Glamrock is, I still want it in the game. But with the amount of jackassery that comes from these FNAF games, I wouldn't doubt it if Scott just threw these in to make a more solid connection between Gregory and Crying Child. Either because it's canon or because he wants to mess with us. Because that's something he would do, especially when he's leaving and the person next to him, or the person after him, has to clean up his mess. And ultimately, in at number 2, Glamrock Puppet. Every time I make a list discussing creepy animatronics, every single time, without fail, a freaking puppet makes it on the list. That's mostly because the puppets are freaking terrifying, man. And I feel like the phone guy whenever I talk about it, but like, the puppet is creepy. And the Glamrock puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Fury's Rage game like I figured. Yes, I actually called it by its proper name this time. But instead, it's just a separate design. Just no matter what, it just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint to show me where it puts the salami. I don't mean literally, but like, you get what I mean. And not only does it come with its own creepy concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account Scrap Puppet, Withered Puppet, or Reaper Puppet from Final Nights 3. Yet this design, it also still fits into Security Breach, and considering how we got a version in Fury's Rage, maybe we should get a version in the full game. Hopefully it doesn't float though. And finally, in at number 1, Glamrock Bonnie. I think the freakiest part about Glamrock Bonnie is the fact that they're not going to be in the game. So as far as I can tell, the only mention of Bonnie will be in the bowling alley that we probably aren't really gonna get to use, but for the most part, like with the rest of the animatronics, these designs aren't really scary, well aside from the Minecraft model. What's with people and making Minecraft animations for all these FNAF characters? The game hasn't even come out yet. Freaking Glamrock Puppet, freaking Glamrock Bonnie, just chill out. Either way, these versions, aside from one from a Twitter user called Manute Art, aren't really all that menacing, but the idea that people are creating additional animatronics is scary enough to me, because I don't want to deal with the additional lore that would come from that. But these designs are incredible, so maybe I could deal with it if it's just like one of these versions that was included in the game. Just make sure that it's like one of the first few you see, okay Scott? Don't scroll down too much, trust me, it's not worth it. The rules of the internet are there to protect you. And at 10, Nightmare Ballora. Nightmare Ballora is a piece of work, holy crap. With thin like needles and that signature torn and battered Nightmare aesthetic, this is what I expect when I think about a Nightmare version of a character we have already seen. However, I'm getting some serious Fuerza from Flash Season 7 vibes here, especially from this image posted onto the FNAF subreddit by user Demolition Inevitable. And the rest of these are just terrifying, okay? Even the ones that most people would consider bad are actually messed up. This is the first animatronic on this list that really made me feel unsafe. And at 9, Anatomically Correct entered. Okay, no joke, I find this actually terrifying. Like a realistic metal zombie in a way. Anatomically Correct entered is best described by its name. It's a version of Ennard where the metal parts that surround his body, his innards I guess, are actually anatomically correct. Like they would form what looks like actual muscles. So there's more around the chest and they're like in the direction that like the muscle tendons and stuff would be under your skin. And that makes it horrifying and just terribly uncomfortable to look at, especially his face. And like, you know that, you stare at my face all day in videos, like you get what I mean. I don't know what it is about this Ennard's face, but like without the mask he just looks like a terrifying villain out of a Scooby-Doo movie, but like more realistic. Like if the latest iteration of like the live action Scooby Gang with like Robbie Amell as Fred Jones had gotten a third movie and they actually tried to make it scary, this is what they would be. Like, why is this necessary? Who felt compelled to make this, and why did you subject me to it as well? Look, I'm sorry if you didn't know about this, but whoever made it, it's their fault, not mine. Wait, if it's anatomically correct, does that mean it has a... And at 8, Ignited FUNTIME Freddy. Ah yes, a throwback to the meta numbers. A fan edit of a fan game. The Ignited animatronics from the fan game The Joy of Creation. A game where you play as Scott Cawthon and his family after he retires from FNAF and the animatronics come after him. Uh-oh, that sounds frighteningly familiar. But these animatronics are more destroyed than their previous counterparts, basically having their withered versions be set on fire, as I guess they tried to escape the hellscape that is the FNAF world. So that in essence is what Ignited FUNTIME Freddy looks like. Take a withered version of FUNTIME Freddy and then set them on fire and you'll basically have Ignited FUNTIME Freddy. With missing exosuit, casing on his legs pretty much every time, and other exposed bits of endoskeleton. Scott would be glad that at least in the game's universe he ended it before Sister Location was even a thought, since even Bon Bon is after him this time. And we all know how that's gonna end. And at 7, Spring Lich. Spring Lich was meant to appear in the FNAF fan game Dormitibus, another game that I love to come back to in order to find scary animatronics. There wasn't much planned for Spring Lich, but he was present in the Dormitibus beta. Modeled by Golden Nexus, Spring Lich is a green version of what seems to be Scraptrap, with similar proportions to the head. However, this game was released before FNAF 6, so that's probably just a coincidence. Spring Lich's head is on backwards, meaning that he walks backwards while looking at you, and this was planned to be part of his minigame, since it would then make it possible for him to be tripped and stumble to actually kinda get away. The character appears to be a Springlock victim, but with not much remaining on the inside. However, you can also see scratches and tears on the outside, like with all worn down animatronics. Someone needs to use better fabric for these guys. And at 6, Shadow Spring Bonnie. Shadow Spring Bonnie is one of the 2 primary antagonists of Final Nights 2. He is also one of the final animatronics in the game. Shadow Spring Bonnie resembles Springtrap, as to be expected when mentioning Springlock suits, and similar to Springtrap, he lacks the suit on his feet and has a majority of his right ear missing. Overall, he has rips, but he's not really missing any limbs or parts at all, which is a stark contrast to the burnt animatronics from the first 4 nights of that game. His face glows white, which is notable when he's in the hallway, but also gives him a more sinister appearance, and pushes that something supernatural idea like most Shadow animatronics have, like Shadow Bonnie from FNAF AR. Shadow Spring Bonnie takes the roles of Burnt Freddy and Burnt Foxy on night 5, so he's very fast and the player has to seal the vent quickly or else they'll get jump scared, and he also may appear in the hallway. Although you can never use the flashlight on this character, otherwise you'll get insta-kill. Inspect his face when he appears outside the door though, and if he's twitching, you'll need to close the door. A rattling sound will let you know when he's on the left, but the fact that you need to look at his face to see if you're in danger is horrifying, especially when most of what you need to do in these games relies on fast reflexes. Halfway through into number 5, Reaper Puppet. Ah yes, my arch nemesis, the Reaper Puppet. If you didn't know, the Reaper Puppet was the first fan animatronic ever featured on this channel. The first FNAF video by me on the channel was on January 29, 2020 though. Can you believe that? It's been nearly 2 years. And the video I'm talking about came out a month later on February 24th, 2020. So I have a long history with this character. The Reaper Puppet, along with Shadow Bonnie and the brother from Final Nights 1, are the only animatronics in the entire Final Nights series to start off the night outside. Reaper Puppet appears to be a counterpart to the original series puppet, though it is only the Reaper Puppet's head that is similar to the core series puppet. The rest of its body is dark shades of black, and it has a long, stretching arms with sharp fingers at its hand. It's like the Grim Reaper, okay? Like a Reaper Puppet. He has multiple tentacle-like legs as well, which only makes me more sus. The Reaper Puppet can easily be mistaken for a tree, and its legs are like long roots and the shoulders look like branches, but this thing is so creepy and I always include it on this list. But I was so creeped out when I first saw this animatronic. Like how kids in Fazbear Frights are drawn to the restaurants, I'm drawn to the Reaper Puppet. And at 4, Slasher Fredbear. Slasher Fredbear by DeviantArt user PlayStation Jedi is an unholy abomination that must be stopped. I've talked about the Slasher animatronics before, particularly in the Bonnie alternate versions list. However, Slasher Fredbear is so much worse. He may not have a shotgun axe guitar, but oh my god. Let me read the description of this animatronic in the words of PlayStation Jedi himself. Quote, "The largest and strongest of all Slasher animatronics, Slasher Fredbear is an unstoppable force with enhanced strength and durability. Fredbear is capable of smashing through walls, withstanding lots of punishment, and grabbing heavy objects and throwing them across the room. While Fredbear uses his great strength to pick up and rip people in half, if he needs a quick kill, he can extend a blade mounted to his wrist to cut through people like butter. Or if he needs a ranged attack, he can use his 2 wrist-mounted LMG guns. Fredbear can switch between these weapons on the fly, either using 2 LMG guns, 2 blades, or 1 on each wrist." What the actual fuck? LMG stands for light machine gun, by the way, okay? Holy mother Christ. Like, this guy is going to make me cry myself to sleep, not to mention the spikes covering his body and the incredible amount of blood soaking him, because of course he does. Of course he needs it. And at 3, Sinister Baby. The Sinister animatronics have become somewhat of a staple on these lists for me now, and I mean, it's clear why. While the original baby is sinister in scheme, this one just looks like it's going to rip your guts out and get inside you, and not in a fun way. The real look to these kinds of things is basically like a repaired Nightmare animatronic, with a clean exterior but the sharp teeth of a nightmare. Now, I'm not too sure if this is another fan-made character based off the fan game time or if it was actually going to be in the main fan game that has the Sinister animatronics, but at the very least Sinister Baby is based on the unfinished and unreleased fan game Sinister Turmoil. And while we got 2 basically demo games to play before the game was ultimately cancelled, we never really got to see this animatronic in action if it wasn't made by a fan of the game. It's terrifying, it's horrific, and it's worthy of the top 3. Penultimately, in at number 2, Havoc Chica. Do I even need to explain? Havoc Chica, aka Maria, is a Havoc animatronic that hails from the Dormitibus universe. She's the Havoc version of Chica, obviously, and is a failed attempt by the Havoc puppet to give her spirit a physical form. While having the same color scheme as Chica, the two look nothing alike, thankfully. The mask Havoc Chica wears has a good amount of damage done to it. Her right eye socket has grown in size, arching upwards towards her feathers. The rest of her mask has small withering in a few places, mainly near her right eye socket and her forehead. She has no eyes, resulting in her being blind. Her jaw isn't directly connected to her head like the Chica from FNAF 1. Instead, her jaw looks more like her withered counterpart. Her jaw, in addition to this, has withering on both sides of it and some towards the front. Her entire head is attached to a suitless limb segment, making her head stick out from her body, and it's grotesque and nauseating to look at. She looks like this. Finally, in at number 1, Sinister Freddy. Sinister Freddy, while potentially being the thumbnail for this video, was also intended on releasing with the cancelled Sinister Turmoil fan game. Instead of the full game, however, we got Sinister Turmoil Sewers, which is a small section of what would have been the full game. Sinister Freddy is a brown animatronic bear with a lighter shade of brown on his stomach, snout, and the insides of his ears. He appears to have damage on his suit, but still has the sharp teeth and no eyes. His whole suit appears to be severely withered, having large rips and tears on several pieces of his body, and Sinister Freddy sports large needle-like weapons on his wrists, kinda like hidden blades, but they're not hidden at all. He also appears to have small geometrically shaped claws and nails. Sinister Freddy also has a mouth with sharp teeth, as per usual, and some under his body that you can actually see if you look really closely, but you don't want to get too close, otherwise he's gonna bite your head off like Pennywise. I don't like it, but it's absolutely terrifying and deserved to be number 1, even over the Dormitibus animatronics, so yeah.